Right now, in your head, you have a picture of the world. You built that picture over years, from classroom walls, from atlases, from Google Maps, and almost every single detail of that picture is wrong. Not slightly wrong, fundamentally, structurally, deliberately wrong. And the people who built it knew. The map most of the world uses today is called the Mercator projection. It was created in 1569 by a Flemish cartographer named Gerardus Mercator. And before you dismiss this as a story about an outdated piece of paper, consider what a map actually is. A map is not just a tool for navigation. A map is a mental model. The image you carry in your head of where things are, how big they are, and how they relate to each other, that came from a map. And if the map is wrong, the mental model is wrong. And if the mental model is wrong, then everything built on top of it is wrong too. Here is the core problem. The Earth is a sphere. A map is flat. There is no way to take a curved surface and lay it perfectly flat without distorting something. Every cartographer in history has known this. The question was never whether to distort. The question was which distortion to accept. Mercator's answer was to preserve direction. His map was designed for sailors. If you drew a straight line between 2 points on his map, it gave you a constant compass bearing. You could follow it exactly and arrive where you were going. For navigation, it was a masterpiece. Ships stopped getting lost, trade routes opened up, the map worked. But here's what Mercator traded to make it work. To preserve direction, he had to stretch the map. And the further you move from the equator toward the poles, the more extreme the stretching becomes. A small distortion near the equator becomes a massive one near the top and bottom of the map. The result is a world where sizes are almost entirely fictional. Greenland appears roughly the size of Africa on a Mercator map. In reality, Africa is 14 times larger. You could fit the United States, China, India, and most of Europe inside Africa and still have room left over. But on the map you grew up with, Africa looks like a medium-sized landmass sitting next to a Greenland that appears almost as large. Alaska looks bigger than Brazil. It is 1/5 the size. Europe looks roughly comparable to South America. South America is almost twice as large. Scandinavia appears to stretch across the top of the world like a continent. It is smaller than the Democratic Republic of Congo, a country that most people would struggle to locate on the very same map. And here is the part that stays with you. This is not ancient history. The Mercator projection is still the default map used by Google Maps. It is still printed in classrooms across the United States, Europe, and much of the world. The map that billions of people use every single day to understand where they are in relation to everything else is the map Mercator designed in 1569 for a sailor with a compass. In 1973, German historian Arno Peters stood up at a press conference in Germany and announced that the Mercator projection was not just inaccurate, it was political. His argument was specific. The countries that appear largest on the Mercator map, Russia, Canada, the United States, Greenland, are predominantly wealthy, predominantly white, predominantly Northern Hemisphere nations. The countries that are shrunk and squeezed toward the center of the map, the nations of Africa, South America, and Southeast Asia, are predominantly the nations that were colonized, extracted from, and economically dominated by the ones rendered large. Peters said the map did not just reflect the world. It reinforced a particular version of it. His alternative, the Peters projection, preserved area instead of direction. On his map, every country appears in accurate proportion to its actual size. Africa looks enormous because it is enormous. Greenland looks small because it is small. The reaction from the cartographic establishment was ferocious. Academics called his map ugly, his methods sloppy, his motives political. The debate lasted decades. But here is what nobody in that debate could argue with. A child who grows up looking at a Mercator map and a child who grows up looking at an area-accurate map develop different mental models of the world. Not just different facts, different intuitions, different instincts about scale, power, and significance, different unconscious assumptions about which parts of the world are large and central and which are small and peripheral. There is no neutral map. There never was. Every map is a set of choices. What to preserve, what to distort, what to put at the center, what to push to the edges. For most of history, those choices were made by European cartographers for European sailors serving European empires. And the world they drew became the world everyone else inherited. In 1998, Boston public schools made a quiet decision. They replaced the Mercator projection in their classrooms with an area-accurate alternative. A teacher described what happened when students saw the new map for the first time. They argued. They refused to believe it. Some of them were angry, because the picture in their heads, the one they had been building since they were old enough to recognize shapes, told them something different. And the map on the wall was telling them they had been wrong. That is what a map does when it works. It becomes invisible. It stops being something you look at and becomes something you look through. You stop seeing the map. You start seeing the world. And if the map was wrong from the beginning, you never knew you were looking through a distortion. You just thought you were looking at the truth. The world is not the shape you think it is, it never was. And the image in your head right now, the one that feels like geography, like fact, like simply the way things are, somebody drew that. Somebody made choices about what to show you and what to hide. And you have been living inside those choices your entire life without ever being told they were choices at all.